Welcome everyone, Andrew Bodden here with Farms.com, and I'm joined with Justin Fix, Director of Customer Success at AcuFast. So tell us what's new with AcuFast.
Well, as we think about AcuFast and where we've come, just a little bit of history here. So we're going on 4 years from the purchase of Acuity and 3 years from the merger of Acuity and Fast into what is today AcuFast. And while you may not think that's new, 3 years goes really fast. And so it's not new, but it also is still fairly new, and you have companies that have been separate for such a long time. And so we think about that, the new stuff, the teams come together, really some incredible focus here in the last couple of years on expanding our supply chain, building our technical solutions team to better support our customers, their products, and the tools they need to ensure the product's successful. From the genetic investment side, really heavy focus in the commercial data collection, which has been a core to us for a long time, but bringing that to fruition, the individual individual feed intake, even on commercial pigs that we're feeding back in, lactation feed intake in our nucleus, big heavy investments into that type of data collection, so we can drive the phenotyping needed to ultimately continue to create an animal that produces more with less for our customers.
Okay, well, I mean, that sounds fantastic. It sounds like it's been a quick 3 years. Tell us a little bit about the genetics of both and kind of how that's working into one company.
For sure. So, again, a little bit of a history lesson. Fast Genetics is, it's easy for me to remember because it was founded in the year I was born. It's 43 years old, and by Harold Fast, and it had created an incredible market, driven really starting kind of on the foundation of a high health animal up in the northern part of Canada and ultimately into the U.S. And over the last decade, it created a really strong force in the U.S. market with this maternal product. Just a strong female that's really done well for the system, or for the U.S. system and Canadian system. The other side of that, Acuity coming from a commercial system itself, much shorter of a history, but had a lot of investments in terms of that terminal side. And the Acuity Duroc, if you will, was what came through that, and the infrastructure of the commercial test system to feed that. So as we brought those together, we've ultimately ended up today with what we call the AcuFast Vantage, the F1 that's predominantly is fully comprised, I should say, of those genes from the legacy Fast, and then the Duroc that came from Acuity, and then we built that system where we took both of those nucleus operations, moved animals between and depopped and repopped, and so now we have duplication across the U.S. and Canada for both the maternal and terminal. We've expanded those populations and really as I mentioned just before, hammered down on those investments to continue to turn that wheel faster, that genetic wheel faster. And so that's where we are today in our primary products, and we're pretty excited for what they're doing for the customers.
Yeah, so let's go back, talk a little bit more about the customers. We talked earlier off camera about kind of the relationship and the importance of that, because it's not a short-term quick sale. It's something that's got to be longer.
I mean, every product has its life, its product cycle, if you will, or its sales cycle, I guess I should say, of how long it takes from you start that conversation to go. And I'm probably biased because I live in it, but as you look at it within generally speaking, genetics might be the longest cycle from the kind of interaction to purchase, because it's such a big decision, particularly the maternal side, to change health, to change farms. You just don't do that every day. And so with that, at least in my opinion, and what I hear from a lot of customers, is they often buy from the people and the product, because once I make that decision, I'm likely going to be there. And the product in genetics doesn't make itself better over the next 5 years. It's the people doing it, not just the technologies, but their perspective and willingness to hear and understand where the industry needs to go and what the customer is looking for and how to help the customer. And that's the team that does it. So not only the people in terms of the relationship we build with the customers, but also and also the team behind creating, developing, and disseminating that product, I think is vital to the success and something I'm really proud and excited to be a part of at AcuFast.
That's fantastic. Well, it sounds like things are really coming along well with this fairly new company, and congratulations on that. Anything else you want to touch on before we say goodbye?
I just want to appreciate the time with you. We think back a few years, we started with some interactions in our infancy, if you will, with the launch of Acuity, so we appreciate the relationship we've had with Farms.com during that, but also just from the standpoint of it's fun to be here when people, and I'm not at all trying to diminish what people have been through, but when we've turned into what is probably a little better market, a little more opportunity. 2023 was pretty brutal. Some people I call pretty close friends had to make decisions to not do what they had done for a lifetime, and to get out of that and now come into this where there's a little more cautious optimism. People are putting a little more money, a little more equity back in. That's fun, and it's exciting to see. It makes the conversations more positive, and we're thinking about how we grow and do better versus how we survive. And if you're not surviving, or if you're only focusing on surviving, you're probably not thriving. I'm stealing that from another person who has said that, so I'll give them credit. But that's just refreshing, and it's exciting to see. And people you become friends with when they're having a good time, it's easier for you to have a good time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Justin. I really appreciate your time. And on behalf of Farms.com, I'm Andrew Bodden, and we'll see you next time.